Disclaimer, this entire video is going to be based about point of view. People are going to live a different life one way or another. One person may know about a VHS tape while another person doesn't. This entire video will be based on my point of view and the things that I grew up with since childhood to now. And so, you may be asking, why did I make this video anyway? Well, it's because of how hard WatchMojo tried to be hip, cool, and relevant to kids nowadays. It was so bad it was worth making a video about. I couldn't pass this up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and please don't get upset if some of the things that I grew up with were things that you didn't grow up with. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me reading this and reading this yourself, and carry on. WatchMojo, the ultimate place to crave your top 10 needs. I mean, who can forget such classics as top 10 anime deaths, top 10 anime plot twists, and the most important of all, top 10 soups. They are also known for having more channels than iJustine in a cloning machine. They have Mojo Travels, Mojo Plays, Mojo Talks, Miss Mojo, Junior Mojo, WatchMojo UK, WatchMojo Espanol, WatchMojo in French, and WatchMojo Arabic. Now, some of you might be wondering, why am I making a video about WatchMojo? Well, it's because I just recently found a WatchMojo top 10 list that was made 2 years ago titled Top 10 Things Children Today Don't Recognize. And personally, and yes, I do mean that personally, this is the most insulting top 10 list I've ever watched. It's a video that would make you want to skip to the very end. It's a video that makes you want to lose all hope for humanity. It's a video that makes you wince so hard that you look like you just drank sour milk. Okay, maybe it's not really that bad, but still, it is, just really makes you want to lose all hope for humanity. Now, I'm going to be going through this entire video, and I'm going to be listing out which ones I actually do recognize and which ones I don't recognize, because I was one of those kids that obviously grew up in the 2000s. I was born in the early 2000s, so this is going to be a very, very interesting video to watch, especially on my part, because, like I just said, I grew up during the 2000s. So let's see if I was actually born in the right generation, or I should have been born in the 1990s.
You darn kids with your fancy phones and your fast internet.
That just hurt my stomach. Oh god, that was actually painful to watch. I am being serious. My stomach was in literal pain hearing that. That hurts.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things children today don't recognize. For this list, we're looking at pieces of technology or pop culture that were once popular and innovative, but have now become obsolete due to the superior technology of today.
Superior, huh? Well, let's see about that.
Number 10, phone books.
Alrighty, we're off to a good start, aren't we? If we're so far into the future to the point where people don't know how to read fucking books, then I'm afraid about what's going to happen to our future generations. Now, in order to not get a copyright claim, let me explain what a phone book is. Back then, before you were able to put contacts into iPhones, we had to look up these things called phone books. You had to find the zip code in your area, and you had to find the street zone in that area, or that person in the area, that person's last name in that area, or the company's name. You had to do all that, and you had to completely go on an entire hunt in order to find what you're looking for. But if you did find what you were looking for, and if somebody gave you their phone numbers that way you can call them, or they could call you, couldn't you just write them down and save it for later? I mean, didn't pencils and papers exist in the 80s and 90s? How did you all get through school back then?
Quick, think of your sibling's phone number. Did you know it right away?
I mean, if I had it written down on pen and paper, then yeah. Plus, people can train themselves to remember their phone number on the spot, or remember someone's phone number on the spot. I mean, I remembered my parents' phone numbers on the spot.
Gone are the days when you actually had to hunt down the person you wanted to call by finding his or her city and his or her last name in the phone book. In fact, it seems like these days, phone books are more often used as fodder to show off your inhuman strength than anything else.
Well, actually, there's a technique to doing that, and you could just instantly look that up online as well. Speaking of which...
Number 9, TV guides. You see, kids, before the internet, pirating, Amazon, and a host of other providers weren't around to allow access to your shows whenever you wanted.
Oh yeah, I should mention, a lot of people usually tend to think about the technological standards of today when people say, oh, they were born in the wrong generation. I mean, I can understand that. Like, PCs are blazingly fast. We just saw a Tesla into space, and we have full access to anything we want. I can understand that, but we're talking about things like Lil Pump existing. That's why a lot of people are saying they were born in the wrong generation, because modern day music is terrible. Modern day television shows are terrible. Modern day video games can be terrible as well. Well, then again, there was the Atari 2600, and people were saying E.T. was a terrible game, but then again, it isn't really as bad as a game as a lot of people are saying, including Cat Icarus.
Not to mention that now, cable boxes come with a guide that's just a push of a button away. Too bad though, we kinda liked seeing which celebrity was on the cover of this week's issue.
The first of many examples of WatchMojo saying that things from the past are somewhat better than things that we have today.
Number 8, rotary phones. We're going way back for this one. Even before touch-tone phones, there were rotary dial phones. You may recognize them from museums or old people movies.
Okay, now this one might actually does depend on where you lived at or who you grew up with, so I can understand why they added this one on the list. But during my childhood, my parents actually did have at least one rotary phone, and out of nowhere I decided to call my mother's phone number. She had one of those flip phones at the time. I decided to call her number out of random to see if it actually worked, because I didn't think that this piece of technology could work to this day. I tried it, and it actually did work. I managed to call her, and it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had when it came to a piece of classic technology.
The letters go around the dial in alphabetical order, and the numbers are in numerical order.
Thank God for Google.
Again, that hurts quite a lot. That actually does hurt my stomach. Like, there was so much cringe in that, I actually felt my stomach wincing. Also, by the way, how can you use Google to call somebody? I thought you were supposed to use your phone and a SIM card in order to call somebody.
These started going out of style in the 1960s when touch-tone phones came in.
Oh, Jesus, since the 1960s? Okay, in that case, I can understand why you added it on the list.
Best to skip your parents and go straight to the grandparents for stories about these relics.
I mean, my parents had one of them, like I just said a moment ago, but yeah, it just depends on where you lived at and how you lived.
Number 7, video rental stores. Remember when we said watching TV was a pain? That's nothing compared to watching movies at home. For instant access to movies, you had to get in your car, drive to the store, choose, and then pay for a movie you wanted to rent. Drive home and watch it.
I mean, people still do that today. They still have to get in their car, drive over to the store, and then pick whatever the movie they wanted to buy. Just because technology exists, that doesn't mean it's gonna be taking over our entire planet. I mean, it's 2018, and Walmart is selling fucking vinyl records. The Michael Jackson estate made an entire 6 vinyl record set of all of Michael's albums to celebrate his 60th birthday. And the reason I bring those up is because vinyls were a thing of the past ever since CDs were created. But now they came back, and they are making vinyl versions of modern day albums. There is a vinyl version of Panic at the Disco's Pray for the Wicked. There is a vinyl version of XXXTentacion's Question Mark album. There's vinyl records of Bruno Mars's 24 Karat Magic. There's vinyl record versions of everything!
After all that, you'd have to drive back to the store, return it, and then drive back home again.
And that's also what you do if you want to get a refund on something. Oh, and also, if you did have to drive back to the store to return it, wouldn't you be able to pick up another movie there and drive back home and watch it? So it would be just like a pattern where you get to watch a movie, then return it back, then watch another movie, then return it back, and things like that? Wouldn't you be able to do that?
Number 6, pagers, also known as beepers. Until the early 90s, there were tons of different pagers on the market. But once cheap and reliable cell phones came along, these wireless telecommunication devices all went the way of the dinosaurs.
Well, except if you're living in 2018, if you want to be like one of those hip kids, you need to pay $1,000 to get the latest iPhone. But on the other hand, you don't have to pay that anyway, since I still have my iPhone 6s Plus. That was actually $250. That little 6s Plus I have was actually literally only $250. Back then, you were lucky enough to get a flip phone, or lucky enough to have one of those brick phones. You didn't have that much to do back then, and that made those things really cheap, which was nice. But now, if you want to get yourself a new phone, they're going to be literally hundreds of dollars, which is insane. But look at all the stuff that you could do nowadays. So yeah, technology-wise, a lot of things have been better, but back then things were way cheaper, and you have to admit that.
Which, funnily enough, is what you'll be called if you still use one. Alphanumeric pagers simply displayed a phone number that you had to call back, while more advanced ones like the two-way QWERTY pagers could send and receive early forms of text messages.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, yeah, texting is extremely easy nowadays, but back then, that is actually really interesting.
Number 5. Portable audio players, Walkman and Discman. A Walkman or Discman is a portable audio player, with the former for cassettes and the latter for CDs, that would sometimes fit in your pocket.
Even though portable CD players still exist to this very day. Heck, even I own a portable CD player.
If we're talking a Walkman, then we'd have to deal with turning over the cassette tapes once you'd reach the end of one side.
Ugh, that is such a difficult chore. I need to go and turn the cassette around. That is such a pain. Why do I have to do this just to listen to more music? Okay, to be serious, I could kind of see why it's a very inconvenient thing to do. Like, if you want to listen to a whole MJ album, you have to turn the cassette around. I can understand that.
So today you can fit thousands of songs on a phone, but on a cassette you could only fit up to about 30 songs.
I feel bad for the people that lived in the 90s.
Now look, I'm one of those people that don't listen to that much music, but 30 songs is like plenty enough. In fact, I'd say 10 songs for me would be plenty enough. Why would you need to listen to something that has 30 Oh. Right. I take that back.
You darn kids with your 128 gig iPods.
Actually, I have a 16 gig iPhone, thank you very much. And because of iPhones, I'm pretty sure iPods are the thing of the past as well.
Number 4. Video cassette recorder, also known as VCR and VHS. Before the days of fancy Blu-rays and 1080p high-definition video, we had VHS tapes, and they were awful in every conceivable way.
Well, with that decrease of quality comes a nice protective case to keep that thing really protected. Seriously, I used to play freaking dominoes with all of my VHS tapes, and they all work just fine. You can't do any of that crap nowadays with a DVD. If you just drop your DVD once on freaking carpet, that thing would be skipping in about 5 seconds. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about it, but just watch Cinemassacre's video about DVDs and why they suck.
Then there was the fact that you had to rewind VHS videotape cassettes and fast forward them if you wanted to get to a particular scene.
Or you could just buy yourself a VHS rewinder and save yourself the trouble of doing that.
Number 3. Developing photographic film. The joys of old cameras. In this video, you'll see old cameras like your mom and dad had. You see, they couldn't see how their pictures turned out until they got them developed.
Oh, okay, I'm not gonna lie, that is actually pretty stressful. I hate it when we wouldn't be able to see the photos until they were developed. So I could see where they're coming from, and I could see why they put it on the list.
You had to go to the store or a photo lab and wait a few hours for your pictures to be chemically developed into a photo you can actually see. It was only then that you could finally check your masterpieces. And more often than not, it would only be to find out that the beautiful picture you thought you took was ruined by the flash. Imagine a world where you couldn't retake the same selfie 100 times to get it just right.
Stop! Oh, God. They are trying way too hard to appeal to kids nowadays. Oh, gosh. My stomach hurts so bad right now for watching this. This hurts so much.
Number 2. Dial-up internet access. Isn't it amazing that you can watch this video in HD without having to suffer through buffering or having to make a sandwich while it loaded?
Well, depending on the city that you live in. I don't know if I ever talked about this before, but before I moved in 2014, in my city, the internet was horrible. It took it minutes to load a simple 4-minute video, and I could literally make a sandwich during that time. That's how slow my internet was. And at the time, 1080p videos were really common to watch online.
Yep, this was absolutely not possible in the 1990s. Thanks, broadband. See, kids, we once had what was called dial-up internet access, something that would make an awful mechanical noise while it connected to an internet service provider.
Though it is a very iconic noise, and not to mention, I would love, and I'm being serious about this, I would love there to be like a Google Chrome extension where it actually makes that noise every time you try to click on a link. Like every time you try to go online, it'll actually make that sound. It'll show like the AOS screen before moving on to the actual website itself, and you can uninstall it if it doesn't work well for you, or if you just wanted to do it for laughs and then just uninstall it and go back to regular online. I would love to see somebody do that.
All the power and excitement of Nintendo right in the palm of your hand.
Oh yeah, this actually reminds me of something. I once brought my Game Boy Advance SP to school. I actually do own a Game Boy Advance SP, and it was a blue one. I decided to bring it to middle school to see how my friends would react to it. They legitimately thought it was a giant flip phone because they didn't know what the Game Boy Advance SP was and what it did, or basically they didn't know about it. And it was one of the funniest moments I ever had. And I explained to them that it was a Nintendo system from 2003, and it was something that just played games for that system. It was a lot of fun. I legit have one in my room right now.
Number 1. Floppy disk. By 1987, the 3.5-inch disc was all the rage because it could hold an astounding 1.44 megabytes of data. That's pretty crazy considering there are thumb drives today that can hold terabytes of information. And such technological advances have effectively eliminated the need for these plastic discs.
Oh god, just imagine them still making floppy disks to this very day. In fact, the more I think about it, CDRs and DVDRs are kind of the same as floppy disks. Think about it this way. Both of them are slim, both of them are flimsy and easily breakable, both can fit within the size of a square, both have cases and storage systems for you to store them in, and both of them can be inserted into a computer to read, write, and execute data from, and be able to eject them out for you to store or use in another system. Oh god, this got really deep. Okay, let's just continue.
Maybe in a few years we'll be laughing at our measly terabyte thumb drives.
I mean, then again, there is an actual thing called a petabyte, which is 1,000 terabytes, so you're kind of right about that.
Do you agree with our list? What outdated technology do you think kids today wouldn't recognize? For more up-to-date top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
And that's the end of the video. So let's look at how many things I recognize, but things I didn't recognize. There were, in total, 8 things I did recognize, and 2 things I didn't recognize. Well done, WatchMojo. You got yourself a 2 out of 10. Well done. But like I said in the beginning, people can have different lives, and some things I may recognize you don't, and some things I didn't recognize you recognize. So yeah, that's really debatable, and it depends on how you lived. But we can all agree they tried way too hard to be relevant to kids.
Imagine a world where you couldn't retake the same selfie 100 times to get it just right. The horror.
But I want to hear what you all think. What were your thoughts on the video? Did you like it or did you hate it? Tell me in the comments. And also tell me what were the things that you recognized and the things that you didn't recognize throughout that video. Tell me in the comments. And if you have any other suggestions for what you want me to talk about next, and if you have any fan art that you want to submit to me, you can submit them all via Twitter, Discord, comment section below, and in the community tab. And if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button, and if you're new, the subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a video. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.